Imagine a world bathed in perpetual daylight, where the sun circles the horizon but never sets. you know. This is the Arctic summer, a brief but intense season of life. Now picture that same world plunged into months of unrelenting darkness, a frozen kingdom under a sky filled with shimmering curtains of light. This is the Arctic winter. This realm of extremes is the tundra, a vast, treeless expanse that crowns the top of our planet. It is a landscape that appears, at first glance, to be utterly inhospitable, a place where life itself seems to be a contradiction. Here, the wind howls across open plains, and the cold is so profound it can freeze unprotected skin in minutes. It is a world that challenges our very understanding of survival. The defining feature of the Arctic tundra lies hidden just beneath the surface. It is a layer of permanently frozen ground called permafrost. This frozen soil, rock, and ice can extend hundreds of meters deep and has remained frozen for thousands of years. It is the very foundation of the tundra ecosystem. During the short summer, only the top few inches of soil, known as the active layer, will thaw. This thin layer provides just enough unfrozen ground for plant roots to take hold. But beneath it, the permafrost remains as solid as concrete, an impenetrable barrier that prevents trees or any deep-rooted plants from growing. This is the fundamental reason the tundra is a treeless plain. The Arctic tundra is defined, above all else, by its profound and persistent cold. During the long winter months, temperatures plummet to astonishingly low levels, often dropping below -50 degrees Celsius or -58 degrees Fahrenheit. In such conditions, the air itself feels sharp, and every breath is a reminder of the life-threatening environment. Water, the essential substance of life, becomes a solid, destructive element. Rivers and lakes freeze solid, often right to their beds, locking away aquatic life in a state of suspended animation. This process creates distinctive geometric patterns on the ground, polygons of cracked earth that stretch for miles, a visible signature of the deep freeze. The wind, unimpeded by forests, sweeps across the open plains with brutal force, carrying snow and ice crystals that scour the land and make the perceived temperature feel even colder, a phenomenon known as wind chill. The seasons in the Arctic tundra are not defined by gradual transitions of spring and autumn, but by the dramatic and absolute presence or absence of the sun. During the winter, the sun disappears below the horizon for weeks or even months on end. This period, known as the polar night, plunges the tundra into a state of perpetual twilight or complete darkness. The only light comes from the moon, the stars, and the ethereal dancing curtains of the aurora borealis. In stark contrast, the Arctic summer brings the phenomenon of the midnight sun. For several weeks, the sun does not set at all. It circles the horizon, casting a continuous, low-angled light over the landscape for 24 hours a day. This perpetual daylight triggers a frantic burst of activity as plants and animals rush to take advantage of the constant energy source. These extreme cycles of light and dark dictate the rhythm of life. The long winter darkness is a period of conservation and endurance. The short summer, with its 24-hour daylight, is a race against time. The growing season may last only 50 to 60 days. This intense, compressed cycle of life and death, driven by the dramatic swing from total darkness to constant light, is one of the most defining characteristics of the Arctic tundra. In a world defined by a relentless, freezing wind and a shallow, unstable soil, growing tall is not a viable strategy for survival. Instead, the plants of the Arctic tundra have adopted a very different approach. They stay low. The landscape is dominated by a carpet of vegetation that hugs the ground, forming dense, compact cushions and mats. This includes a variety of hardy species, from dwarf shrubs like the Arctic willow, which may only grow a few inches high, to resilient grasses like cotton grass, with its distinctive fluffy seed heads. This low-growth form is a critical adaptation. It keeps the plants out of the main force of the wind, which can desiccate tissues and cause physical damage. Wind blasting. By growing close together in these dense mats, tundra plants create their own microclimate, creating a pocket of relative warmth a few inches above the ground. Many species, like the Arctic poppy, exhibit heliotropism. Their flowers track the movement of the sun across the sky. Dark pigmentation is a common adaptation. Reddish or purplish leaves and stems absorb a wider spectrum of light and convert it into heat. Many tundra plants have a cup-shaped form. The parabolic shape focuses sun rays to the flower's center. That creates a warm microenvironment that invites insects to linger, increasing the chance of pollination. Some plants are covered in fine, hair-like structures. They trap a layer of insulating air to reduce heat loss and water loss. While the flowering plants provide splashes of color, much of the tundra's ground cover is composed of a more ancient and subtle form of life: mosses and lichens. Mosses form thick, spongy carpets that can hold a tremendous amount of water, acting like a sponge to absorb and retain moisture. This absorbent quality also helps to insulate the ground, slowing the thawing of the permafrost beneath it. Lichens are even more remarkable. They are not a single organism, but a composite life form, arising from a symbiotic partnership between a fungus and an alga. Certain species, particularly reindeer lichen, are the primary winter food source for caribou. For the caribou, these lichens are a lifeline. The slow-growing, resilient, and often overlooked mosses and lichens are therefore a fundamental, life-sustaining component of this entire frozen world. At the very top of the food chain stands the magnificent polar bear, the undisputed king of the Arctic. This predator is not truly a creature of the land tundra, but of the sea ice that fringes its coasts. Its life is linked to the frozen ocean, where it hunts seals. The polar bear's survival strategy is patience and power. It will wait for hours, motionless by a breathing hole, until a seal surfaces for air. Sharing this frozen world are Arctic wolves, a subspecies of gray wolf adapted to the harshest conditions. Their prey, muskoxen, caribou, are constantly on the move, so wolves roam immense territories. In a world of snow and rock, blending in can be the difference between life and death. The Arctic fox is a true master of disguise. In winter, its thick, pristine white coat makes it almost invisible against the snow, allowing it to avoid predators and sneak up on prey. As the spring melt reveals the rocky, brown tundra, the fox sheds its white fur for a thinner, brownish-gray coat that matches the soil and vegetation. Another expert in camouflage is the snowshoe hare. Its name comes from its enormous furry hind feet, which act like natural snowshoes. These large feet distribute its weight, allowing it to hop across deep snow without sinking, a crucial advantage when fleeing predators. The muskox possesses one of the warmest coats in the animal kingdom, with long outer guard hairs and a dense, soft underlayer called kiviut, 8 times warmer than sheep's wool. The most famous of these travelers is the caribou. These large deer undertake some of the longest overland migrations of any land animal on Earth. In vast herds, they move from their summer calving grounds on the open tundra to their wintering grounds in the boreal forests further south. The skies above the tundra also fill with travelers. The Arctic is a critical breeding ground for millions of migratory birds. The Arctic tern holds the record for the longest migration, flying from its breeding grounds in the Arctic all the way to the Antarctic and back again each year. Their journey is a profound testament to the global connections of the Arctic. For these great travelers, it is a vital, irreplaceable destination. For thousands of years, the Arctic tundra has not been an empty wilderness, but a home. Indigenous peoples have thrived in this challenging environment. Their cultures are built upon a foundation of deep, ancestral knowledge of the land, the ice, and the animals. To survive the extreme cold, Arctic peoples developed some of the most effective clothing and shelter ever created. A double-layered suit of caribou fur can keep a person warm in the most severe winter conditions. These innovations are born from generations of trial and error, a deep science of survival passed down through the ages. The Arctic is warming at a rate 2 to 3 times faster than the global average. This rapid change is transforming the tundra. The most visible impact is the shrinking of the sea ice. For animals like the polar bear, this is a catastrophe. Taller shrubs are beginning to grow in areas that were once dominated by low-lying vegetation, a process known as the shrubification of the tundra. This warming throws the finely tuned rhythms of the tundra out of sync, creating a critical mismatch in the food chain. One of the most significant and alarming consequences of Arctic warming is the thawing of the permafrost. This process, known as thermokarst, is creating a chaotic and unpredictable landscape. The very foundation of the tundra is literally melting away. This thawing has direct and devastating impacts on human life and infrastructure in the Arctic. As the ground thaws, microbes begin to decompose ancient organic material, releasing enormous amounts of carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere. This creates a dangerous feedback loop. The release of this ancient carbon could significantly accelerate global climate change. Protecting the tundra requires immediate and decisive global action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and transition to renewable energy sources. We must work closely with and support indigenous communities. Their traditional ecological knowledge is an invaluable resource for science and conservation. The Arctic tundra is more than a remote wilderness. It is a vital part of our planet's operating system, a global air conditioner. What happens in the Arctic does not stay in the Arctic. It affects us all through rising sea levels and changing weather patterns. By understanding its delicate balance and acting to preserve it, we are not just saving the polar bears or preserving the permafrost. We are securing a stable, habitable future for all life on our shared planet. The time to act is now.